Hi cozies, and welcome back to my channel. On this week's vlog, I'm doing something that I've been putting off for a minute now, and that is a bookshelf reset. I have added a lot of books to my collection. If you follow me, you know this based on some of my book haul videos, and I have books just kind of laying everywhere. So this week we're going to dedicate time to getting reorganized, and I figured why not take you guys along with me. So let's get started. Alrighty, so I have changed, I am ready, I feel super excited about this, and I figured that the first step I needed to do is show you guys how my shelves currently sit, so that way you guys see where I'm trying to go with this reset. Now, a lot of my fiction sits in this corner right here. I have quite a bit of it, and then a lot of my thrillers / horror sits here on the very bottom. A lot of my young adult sits towards the top, and then I have a little bit of a mixture of romance, sci-fi sitting somewhere in here. It's a little bit of a mess, I won't lie. And then almost all of my fantasy is sitting on this corner right here, which is why you also see a huge portion of my decor sitting there. So yeah, that's currently the layout of my bookshelves, and I want to have a better flow when it comes to the genres that sit on my shelves. I feel like when you go to a bookstore, you kind of have an idea on like how you flow through the bookstore, what's the next kind of, genre that you're going to hit as you walk through it. And I feel like when it comes to my shelves right now, they're really so mixed in. Like, it's really hard for you to kind of stand and be able to like really decide on a read, and that's what I'm having trouble with. I'm having a hard time deciding what read I want to have because I feel like my shelves are disorganized. So that's another thing that I'm trying to help in this reset, kind of give myself a little bit of a better layout, so that way when I'm going to pick a book at night, I don't have that much of a struggle when picking one out, because I know which section of my bookshelf to go to based on the mood that I'm in that day. But, well, like I said, I'm moving a lot of my genres around. So that means that a lot of my decor is going to move along with it. And that's because a lot of my decor is fantasy focused. And that's why I need to really decide on how this is going to lay out, because I want it to be a little better distributed on my shelves, if it makes sense. So yeah, that's the ultimate goal. I don't know. I don't want to ramble on too long, but that is where we stand. That's where we're going. And now let me get started. So, quick update. I don't think I'm going to be able to put all my books on the floor like I had originally planned, which is fine. I realized that I have a lot more books than I really think I do, honestly. But I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to simply move just large stacks of specific genres to where I actually want them. And that should really save me on floor space to kind of keep myself organized. And I think I kind of know what setup I want now that I'm kind of going through my books. I think I know for a fact, actually, that all my fantasy will be right behind me. Like, these like main 3 shelves right here are all going to be fantasy or sci-fi, and then my romance will go in the corner where my fiction currently sits, and then all my fiction classics and thrillers are going to go where I had all my fantasy at. And I think that transition will help things look a little bit more organized. So that's currently where I'm at. I figured I'd give you guys a quick update, and let's get back to it. Alrighty guys, so quick check-in. I'm gonna be super honest with you guys and tell you that I'm not having the best time today when it comes to reorganizing my shelves. I feel like every move I make, I'm not happy with the way it's turning out, And I don't know if other people have this hard of a time doing bookshelf resets, but I'm having the worst time. And I think I need to re-strategize, like take a break and really like plan this out a little bit better by, I don't know, making some form of a visual aid to help me kind of figure out where I need to put things, because every time I move something, I feel like it's in the wrong place. Every time I kind of put decor in a different section, it feels like it's not looking cohesive. And I don't know if that's part of the process, but I'm not liking it because it's stressful. But I'm going to stay positive. I think I just need to plan it out a little bit better, and I'm going to take some time to do that. And then tomorrow, I'll check back in with you guys to hopefully pick up and have better luck tomorrow on this. So that's my check-in for today. That's where I'm planning to stop for now, because I don't want this to be super, super stressful for me. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good morning, good morning. It's officially a new day and I'm feeling so much better today. So I think what really helped was sitting down and reevaluating my layout, determining what was not working for me, and tweaking my plan. And now that I have my tweak plan, I figured I'd share it with you before we get started today. So to start off with, I think the overall layout on how I plan to put my books back on my bookshelf is working. I do think that the romance being in this section works. My fantasy sci-fi right behind me on these shelves works, as well as putting some of my thrillers and suspense books on this corner still works. However, I will be putting my young adult books on the very bottom shelves, as well as my suspense and thrillers, just because those two genres specifically aren't like the ones that I reach for the most. And because of that, I want to kind of concentrate the books that I reach for the most towards the top of my shelves, as well as it works more with my decor because they fit more my theme, which is kind of like that romantic fantasy type of theme that I have going on here in my book room. So that makes me feel a lot more comfortable about the way I'm going to be kind of trying to get this done. And I figured I'd tell you guys before we get started today, so that way you guys can see what I ended up tweaking and why things might look a little different than what I had originally planned. But yeah, let's get started. Good morning, good morning. It's Sunday and I am done. I am so excited. Last night I was gonna do the tour, but then I was like, oh, you're so tired, girl. Like literally do it in the morning. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to show you guys the final reveal of my book room and kind of how I ended up setting up all my genres and all my decor. I honestly feel like it's perfect because all of my decor is actually very well distributed on my bookshelves now, and I'm feeling super, super excited about that. But let's start off with how I ended up kind of organizing the genres on my bookshelves. So to begin with, let me shift my camera a little bit here. I did end up putting all of my romance in the section as I originally planned. As you can see, it kind of goes from like very lighthearted romantic romance down to a little bit more dark romance here in this two shelves, as well as over here. So that's pretty much a lot of just romance, all kind of centered in this area. I ended up moving my Bad Bunny decor right here on the shelf because I don't know, I felt like it mixed in well with my romance, and yeah, I'm happy where that sits now. Also, I did end up tucking some of my hardback thrillers in this corner over here. I just felt like I don't grab them as often as other books, so I felt pretty comfortable with them sitting in that area. So yeah, I ended up tucking quite a bit of my books in this area. And let's see. Now, this is kind of how I transitioned between the romance into my fantasy. These are kind of like my oddballs, if you will. Like, I love Disney, so I do have kind of like these Disney kind of retellings, if you will, along with that decor. So I ended up putting it there, as well as my classics. And I don't have a whole bunch of classics, but these are like the main ones that I do have. So I feel like this was appropriate along with the decor that sits under it. And then now we kind of shift into like my sci-fi slash fantasy. And I'm pretty happy like on how I ended up doing this. Like, I feel like fantasy is just like a genre that I really do reach for quite often. So I felt like it was like the most appropriate step for me to like put all of this in this section. So look at how gorgeous this looks. I am so obsessed. I feel like I really did make like the best decision here. And here is like my final section. As you can see, I literally just have so much fantasy in my like collection that I feel like having it all in one spot really just made sense. So yeah, these are my shelves. I feel so happy with them. And before I close this vlog, I wanted to mention that I do still have a good amount of books at my book stacks. I feel like I did an even swap between the new books that I had made my book stacks out of originally, which were mostly fantasy that now sit on my bookshelves, and then I moved a lot of the miscellaneous books that were on my bookshelves onto my book stacks. And when it comes to the genre that the book stacks are made of, they're kind of all over the place. I wanted to share a couple of them just so you can kind of get a general idea of what they're made of. But here's an example. Here's another one, and there's another one. So it's a little bit all over the place, but these are just kind of feel-good reads, in my opinion, that I love to have around when I feel like I don't want romance. I don't want like fantasy. I just want something that just is a good story, and that's what these are, as well as some throwback books that I love to own. And I'll give you an example. Harlequin Presents. I don't know if anybody enjoys reading these, but I do. I feel like when I want like a nice cozy read that isn't going to take me a long time, this is something that I usually kind of lean towards grabbing. And then as well as some of my OG favorites from my childhood, and I'll give an example, like my Nancy Drew books. I don't know if anybody else in middle school was like a huge Nancy Drew fan. Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that's kind of what makes up my book stacks here on my floor. And I figured I'd give you that kind of explanation before we close out, so that way if you see my book stacks on my floor in the future and you're like, oh, she did a reset, why are they still there? That's why. But hopefully you guys had such a good time with me today. I honestly had the best time kind of doing this reset. And if you did, why don't you hit the like button down below? It really does help my channel, as well as if you've come back or if it's your first time here and you want to see more of my bookish content in the future, why don't you subscribe? I feel like that's the easiest way to kind of get notified whenever I upload a new video. But yeah, that's it for today's vlog, guys. I honestly had the best time, and hopefully I catch you on the next one.